Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Monday, Crypto Warriors. I am King.
And I'm Bitcoin Zay.
And we are here with a very special interview with Exochain today. They're a new ICO about to launch, great token sale, all the good stuff that we always talk about here. However, they do have a little different take on using their blockchain technology, and it looks like they have the executives on top of the company to lead the way. So we're here actually with their CEO and co-founder, Bob Stewart. And he's going to give us a little bit more detail about Exochain. How you doing today, Bob?
I'm doing excellent, but I'm getting better now that I'm with you guys.
You're right. Bob is joining us from sunny Maine. He said it's Maine and sunny today. We know it's not as warm as SoCal, but we know they're up there doing some great work. So, Bob, just to get started, welcome to the show. And can you share a little bit about your background and how you ended up getting into blockchain?
Yeah, it's my background's kind of long and storied. I guess I started my first internet company in '93 called VR Media, just to show you I was a little ahead of the curve. And I ended up working on moving digital video information across cable television systems and went to work for Motorola, where I became the chief technology officer of the internet networking group for all of Motorola. We created the cable data products team that went on to create the cable modems that we're talking across right now. I left there and joined CMGI, which was a high-end internet incubator on the East Coast. We bought a couple fairly famous properties like Alta Vista for $2 billion, and we bought Elon Musk's first company, Zip2. And I sort of saw the inside of the .com 1.0 bubble bursting, and ended up joining a company to create a block. We didn't call it blockchain then, but it was an immutable database for accelerating drug and device discovery. And this was in the late '90s, early 2000s, but it was a little bit too far ahead of its time. I ended up open sourcing that software and working with the World Health Organization to give it away for free. And it was designed to basically prevent big pharmaceutical companies from end running the US process and performing clinical research on vulnerable subjects in third world populations, like foreign countries, et cetera. I thought I could make a living off of that, but ended up joining another company called Verified Person with John Sculley, who was the CEO of Apple. He was my boss. He ran Pepsi before that. And it was sort of a back-end system for doing background screening. Are you who you say you are? Have you done what you say you've done? And are you probably still on that path? So it was really kind of an Orwellian data warehouse, about 1,500 data feeds. And it all ties together because once you start working on data at that level, I ended up going to EMC Corporation, the hard drive and storage company that supports probably 95% of the world's financial storage, and worked there on mostly military and intelligence programs. And one of those was a ground-based intelligence surveillance reconnaissance platform. You can think of it as Google Street View for Afghanistan on steroids. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. And then they asked me to go down and take a look at a company in Florida called Sonovation. You think of it as Google Street View for Afghanistan. Next generation fingerprint sensor that didn't just read the fingerprint, but actually read the microvasculature in the fingertip. So the fingerprint was the public key, and the microvasculature is the private key. And this is a company that's a going concern. They're building these sensors, for a phone coming to the market near you in the next year or so. Yeah. Really advanced technology using ultrasound. But while I was there, I started working on another project called ID Key. And we actually built the first, we worked with the FIDO Alliance, which was Microsoft and PayPal and a lot of other big companies to create these next generation multi-factor authentication pieces. So from there, when I realized that they were just going to build hardware sensors and I needed to go work on software solutions, I ended up working with a company called Votum. And I saw you guys were talking about the electronic voting in your last episode. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm the CTO at Votum, and we built the biggest blockchain voting platform on the planet already. And now we're taking it to a whole new level with Votum.com to really encompass all of the regulations that are put on by the Election Assistance Commission, the Voluntary Voter Assistance Guidelines. But it was through the process of working with them and understanding, blockchain and really going deep with, into this space that, it dawned on me that this other work that I had continued to do, that was, I had been volunteering as the CTO, and I'm on the board of directors for the Alliance for Clinical Research Excellence and Safety. And really, that's how Exochain came about, because my passion for doing this is that I had lost my brother to cancer. When he was just 7, he was diagnosed and passed away when he was 9. I was 12. And so, this opportunity to continue to give back became, sort of overwhelming. But, to really look at the challenges that are out there in clinical research, it's horrible. It's like, if you are lucky enough to be one of the people who gets to participate in clinical research, it's like, literally 1 in 25, or like 4%, maybe, 3 to 4% of the people who have cancer or any other disease actually participate in any form of clinical research. And then even if you are one of those people who gets, sort of the latest and greatest, you have an 80% chance of landing at a low performing clinical research site. And, because only 20% of them are considered high performing, like the Mass Generals or the Cancer Centers of America. Some of these sites are really good, but most of them aren't.
So, to briefly interrupt. So we know a lot of our viewers, they are, new to the crypto space in general. So like, as the basic and the simplest form, what exactly is Exochain and what problem is it solving? Why should people buy into this brand and what it's doing?
Yeah. So what Exochain is it's a company that is creating a solution that then connects people with their medical records. And by connecting with their medical records, they take ownership of them. And by owning them, they can then set up smart contracts between all the other parties involved in their healthcare. And that's what our tokens do. They empower people to own their own medical information and then share it with the medical professionals where they're in control of it. Now, this is extraordinarily critical, because right now, every time you go to the doctor, they shove a clipboard in your face and say, sign our HIPAA agreement. And
Hey, Bob, do we still have you? May have been some technical issues, folks. Hold on one moment. Make sure we can get Bob back online. All right. Got a couple technical issues. So while we're waiting on Bob, I will say, what they're doing is definitely good. I can't wait to ask him about, Vinny and what he's doing over there.
Yeah.
As far as the, identity
portion. Yeah.
Right.
That's a big thing coming up, especially with people trying to keep their own data, because data is even more important than money at some point. So,
all right. Not sure what happened to Bob and the connection over there, folks. Hold on one second.
Bob has left the building for a second.
Just for a quick moment. And as you know, we will be going on live at 10-ish as well. This is a kind of a pop-up interview we have, but it's always great to hear about new projects, of course. You said HEPA got them? Oh my God, what's going on, everybody? You just signed up for the pre-sales or roaster. Nice. Bitcoin's day looks different. Does he? What do you do different day?
I don't know. Maybe I've been using the aloe vera. It's been
the aloe vera. He told me about the aloe vera, folks.
Makes my beard luxurious.
Hold on one moment, folks. Figure out what happened to Bob. Yep, it looks like he. So we'll just wait for him to rejoin here again. I'm sure it's just a small issue in his end. What else can you kind of tell us about Exochain before we get them back?
Well, I know just looking at the white paper that their solution for the identity, it is very, very ambitious, I will say, because the ability to control your own data is something people want to an extent, but then some people are really scared to have access to their own data because they're like, what if I lose it? What happens if somebody can't verify it? So that's interesting to see the learning curve that it takes, because people were scared to have computers at first too. They were like, what happens if I put my information in this computer and it takes it? It's just the ignorance that people have with new technologies because they don't understand it. So it is, I think, important for him to be able to make it easier for people to do that zero identity program, which I'm sure he'll talk about more. So
right. I mean, he does definitely have a robust background. You know, CTO at Motorola, and it sounds like he was there when they were actually Motorola.
Yeah.
For some of you who might not remember, Motorola used to be one of the top tier cell phone telecommunications companies, at least here in the United States. They're huge. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but to even be a part of that team during that during that time frame when they were the powerhouse, you definitely picked up some knowledge and skills. So like you said, it's definitely an ambitious project. I know they already have a lot of people signed up to their network already, hospitals and all that. And one of the questions I was going to have for them as soon as we get them back, one of my questions was going to be how did he plan to not necessarily fight, but I guess maneuver along the lines. Here we go. Maneuver along the lines. Okay, we got you back, Bob.
Yeah, sorry about that. I get the blue screen of death. Haven't had one of those in a while.
No problem. We're actually just talking about your project and a couple of questions we had. So I'm glad you kind of explained, or in the simplest version, what you all are doing with Exochain as far as making sure you are getting basically the customer, the end user, the sick person who needs that clinical trial partner, whether it's with a doctor, a hospital, or the new pharmaceutical company, and allow them to decide if they want to release their private information or not, instead of going to the hospital and then you just sign something. And then next thing you know, it might get shipped away. Next thing you know, you got a guy calling you from a different company asking how he can help you do whatever it is since he got your phone number.
It's actually, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The bigger picture is that, your kids and your grandkids need your medical records, because the whole future of precision medicine is about creating cures that are actually targeted directly for them. Right? It's not like, current cancer therapy is like killing an ant with a sledgehammer, right? First, we're going to cut it out of you. Then we're going to shoot you with radiation. Then we're going to fill you with chemicals. And that's the current protocol, right? But the future is, let's find those cells, let's flag them and mark them, and then let's have your own internal, immune system attack them and take care of it. So that all you get is a fever, not all your hair falling out and your eyeballs popping out of your head, right? And so, a big piece of this is also making sure that when you take control of your sovereign records, that you have the legal right to then make them available to your children and to their children and to their children. Because nothing is more important in the long term about precision medicine than having access to the targeting information that you can take no responsibility for. I mean, you should be collecting the information from your folks while they're still here, right? Your mom and dad are what made you. They're the ones that decide what color eyes you got and what color hair you got and how tall or thick you are, right? All of that stuff, it's passed down. Sometimes it's passed down directly. Other times it's passed down indirectly. Remember, dominant versus recessive gene traits. And so a big piece of this is just making sure that the mechanism is also there to facilitate all research. That's why we're not just doing, this one ICO. There's the ICO, and then there's a series of follow-on coin offerings, because we need to open up the gene pool to incorporate all people. 90% of all clinical research is done today is done on people of European descent, because that's who they have the most information on. But we're going out right now into the Americas, so that's going to encompass the melting pot of America, plus all of Latin America and South America and the Caribbean, which opens up a large Hispanic population. But then right on the heels of that, we're going to open up Asia and open up the whole Asian genome, and then Africa and the entire African genome, right? And it's a critical that health be for everybody.
Right. We get everybody on there. So before, definitely going to have a few business questions. Before we go into those, Isaiah has some more technical questions for you.
Okay.
All right. So as far as dealing with scalability being built on the Ethereum platform, we have seen some problems whenever any type of decentralized app gets too big, i.e. like CryptoKitties. So how will your company deal with scalability being built on the Ethereum platform?
Yeah, so we're using the Ethereum platform basically to document references to a private chain, because that's the reality that we're dealing with today. We think that once they move from a proof of work to a proof of stake model, that things will improve. We're not beyond putting in multiple platforms. We're looking at this as a long-term use of blockchain technology. Ethereum just happens to have probably the most robust well-developed environment for writing smart contracts today. But there are plenty others out there, Monax and others that we're actively looking at. We certainly went through a very large vetting process with Votum, and I'm just lucky that I sort of get to ride the coattails of all the things that we've learned through that. So we don't see it as necessarily staked permanently to Ethereum, other than for the purposes of the ERC20 tokens that we're going to be making available. Instead, we're going to continue to leverage the best technology that's available on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. Sounds good, because I know as far as using it as a stepping stone, it is a good first step, and then moving forward in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to be in a pure play environment and sort of have the nirvana of blockchain. But the reality is, this is a $100 billion dollar industry. It's hundreds of billions. In fact, I think the philanthropic side donates $500 billion a year to medical research. So there's just so many very large players that aren't yet on any sort of a blockchain platform, that we've got to create a system that allows for us to connect into those things and act as an oracle. So that's really what we're doing.
So a quick question for you that we got from one of our commenters right now, because we are live streaming, of course. Torrance J Playlist, he said, to him, he thinks medical-based cryptos in the blockchain are a little shaky only because the government controls so much of the medical insurance field in general, here and abroad. So what are your thoughts on that as far as getting by these regulations? Of course, the pharmaceutical company, they don't want you to have that cancer cure right now. They want to have to provide that.
Yeah, they want customers, not cures.
Right. So what are your thoughts on how you and your company will maneuver in the regulatory landscape when it comes to these big private companies with money, or when it comes to our governments here in America or abroad as well?
Well, we're doing this right now with the SEC, and with all of the scrutiny that's coming down on this entire space. It's really not very much different, right? When something new comes out, the regulators are going to try to clamp down on it. The recent letter from FinCEN, et cetera, is just definitely going to put a damper on things. We really think that there's a different way around it for our space, though, and that is we're going right into the heart of the matter. One of the things that we've done is, because Acres is a 501c3 nonprofit and it is global in its nature, we have our Blue Cloud Network, and our Blue Cloud Network is comprised of over 1.1 million healthcare professionals. These are doctors, nurses, and emergency first responders who live and breathe this every single day. And they're coming from 132 different countries already. So what we're planning to do is go directly to them, ask them to participate by incentivizing them. We're establishing over 1.1 million wallets, and we're putting exo tokens in those wallets. And we're going to utilize the people who are in the industry, who have the most to gain from it, actually know what this problem is that I'm talking about, because they live and breathe it every single day for their jobs. And they work for over 50,000 different organizations. So I think it's more of a grassroots effort, and by having the primary stakeholders who do this for every day for their job, be the ones that are benefiting from it directly themselves. I think that's the best way through it, is just to have them be the ones who say, no, this is what we want. This is what will help advance the cause. Because I don't think they like working for companies that create customers over cures any more than we like being the people who invest in those companies and getting nothing but a bunch of expensive medicine and not actually having any better health.
That's true.
That's the chicken before the egg argument,
right?
You were saying. Whereas the demand for blockchain before made companies want to accept it. Now it's like, go straight to the companies, and if they are, we're going to use this for this platform, then the customers are like, oh yeah, we're with it, because
Yeah. And so we actually kicking off of a pretty large, for us anyway, media campaign. We have Rob Lowe, who hosts Informed series on PBS and on national television, and he sent a crew here, and they actually ended up shooting a whole segment on Exochain. That's going to be airing live on TV right during the middle of our ICO. So we're pretty excited about that, because we think it's going to help stir up people wanting to fix the system, and they know it's broken. So we're going to help them do that.
Nice. All right, well, a couple more technical questions for the business. Go ahead, Big Wednesday.
All right. So how will your company adhere to KYC laws with the zero identity protocol?
Yeah, so we're subject to the exact same rules as everybody else. If you were to look at a block diagram of the space, you'd sort of put clinical research at the top and then a bunch of different boxes for the other players, or you might put patients at the top with a bunch of boxes for the other actors in the system, or you might put the medical data at the top with all the other actors. Exochain is really about the arrows and connecting people and adjudicating, are you who you say you are? Have you done what you say you've done? As I told you, I have a long history in doing that. So we're actually doing our own adjudication for Know Your Customer, for anti-money laundering, and for accredited investing. So we're following a traditional SAFT-based approach for our pre-sale, but we're doing all of the adjudication internally. We've actually hired full-time legal staff that works, full-time here now. We've got full-time customer service staff to just help people who may not be familiar with that process to get through and over those hurdles. But it's really fairly straightforward. I mean, everybody's having to deal with it these days. Show me a picture of your driver's license, hold it up, let me see your face, show me the other side, show me the front pages of your tax returns, and show me a utility bill, and bada bing, you're in. But, some people have those files already saved on their hard drive. They can just upload them and we can verify them through a quick video chat. And we're planning to just follow those exact same rules. You got to do what you got to do these days.
Right, especially starting up. And then,
yep.
But you asked about Odentity, and Odentity just starts the process, but it allows us to collect a series of meta informations about those interactions. So what browser are you using, which email client are you using, which phone are you using, which IP addresses is it coming in from, and we're cataloging all of that information. So the next time you go to connect with us, if none of that's changed, it's real smooth. You come right in. Now, if, however, you've gotten a new phone, you got a new browser, you switch to Chrome, it's going to challenge you again to go through some portion of that process, just so we can make sure it is you. But that's more like an identity score. It's very similar to a credit score. It's very easy to fix. Just tie in more points of adjudication. That's why when you ask about the competition, we don't really see it as direct competition. We'd love to have Civic be another, point of adjudication.
Yeah, of course, we had to ask about Civic Key.
Yeah, well, they're just an additional point of adjudication on what we're doing. I mean, Vodem, we're using Civic for the KYC, AML, and for our ICO process today. Nice. For Exochain, which is an identity adjudication platform, I mean, it was built on this idea of this blue cloud, right? So there's over 1.1 million medical professionals. But what Blue Cloud really does is it's identity adjudication for all the credentials that those doctors have to show in order to be a doctor. They've got to take regular courses. They've got to do an upgrade or a refresher course on the latest versions of CPR, how to detect a stroke, or how to detect if a person might be evidencing signs of suicidality. And so there are all these different programs already that these doctors are signing up for to take, and then they get a little gold star. And but they have to adjudicate themselves with like the National Institute of Health or with the American Heart Association or with all these other organizations. So we're taking all of these different credentials into account to create that identity score.
Okay. And one more from me. I saw with the verification process that you would have PACE stewards. I just wanted to know who would be selected as a PACE steward or a potential PACE steward.
Oh, yeah. So PACE is a program where you pick who are your primary, alternative, contingency, and emergency stewards. The purpose of this is, what happens if you get hit by a bus, right, and you're unconscious, and decisions need to be made about your critical care, or what happens about transferring those medical records if you happen to pass away from something, right? So it's critical that people not only be able to recover, but also be able to determine, who takes control of their information and what levels of control are you giving to each of those people individually. But you don't ever want to have all your keys in one basket. So the PACE program actually uses a divided polynomial key to put a piece of each key into 4 different accounts: your primary, alternative, contingency, and emergency contacts. And now if any 3 of those 4 come together and say, listen, yeah, dad's in the hospital, we need to access, all the information he's storing in there, then they can come together and we can facilitate that process. but certainly we wouldn't do it without, making sure that we knew exactly who those people were.
Right.
And if you think it's a good idea to try to use this system to defraud somebody, here's the Darwin Award. Go directly to jail, do not pass go, and do not collect $200.
Right. So we have a few more minutes. Of course, here's one of the most important parts a lot of people want to know. So, we can break them up in a series of short questions. You can kind of answer holistically as you like. But of course, let's talk about the token sale. Let's talk about, what the token is, where's it going to be sold at, where are you looking to get it on exchanges, all that good stuff. And then shortly after that, what are some of the milestones we should be looking for in your roadmap? If you're not doing what by what date, what should be that red flag, or what should we expect from your company?
Yeah, that's a great loaded series of questions. See if I can answer them. So we see that this is a global problem. It requires a global solution, which is why we're rolling out these follow-on coin offerings. So we plan to create 7.6 billion tokens, one for every man, woman, and child on the planet. And then we're coming out the door with our first ICO. It's going to be 1 billion tokens, half of which we're investing in the network and the other half of which we're bringing into the marketplace. So 200 million will be sold in the pre-sale to the safe SAFT holders, and then 300 million will be sold publicly. Now, the follow-on coin offering will be 1 year from the date of the original offering, and it too will have 200 million in the pre-sale and 300 million in the public sale. And just like if you were investing a VC, investing in a traditional firm, and that firm comes to you and says, listen, I'd like $2 million from you. If you're a VC, you're sitting back and going, all right, you find 3 other people who put in 1 million, and then you'll have 5. And we know that's enough to get your company off the ground. But we also know you're going to come back to us for a Series B.
Right. So, Series B is going to happen.
Yeah. So we're going to set aside, and we're going to set aside 10 in our little, bookkeeping. We're going to give you 2 now. When you come back for the Series B, we're going to give you 3 more. We're going to protect our position and hedge it a little bit. And then when we come back for the C, we'll put a 5 more in, because we want you to be successful. So that the philosophy is the same. It's going to cost money to enter each of these countries. It's not like, it's one of the things that I do see when I look at many of the other ICOs. I worry about them being like, right? They've done their fundraising. Now, if they're going to become a global company, they've got to do it all with whatever it is that they raised, as opposed to, making sure that you've planned ahead in order to enter into each of these markets. It's going to cost a lot of money to support all the different languages and countries and regulatory concerns like you brought up before. Not to mention there may be, some friction in those spaces. So, what is that? That looks like it's 1 billion tokens every year for the next 7 years as we go global with this company. But every person who came in on a pre-sale and held their position can buy in on the next pre-sale and hold their position. So there's that. We're going to keep that available so that you can protect your position if that's what you want to do as a sophisticated investor. And then what is it that are these, what is it that says whether or not we're successful? We've actually created a series of 6 KPIs, what we call our key performance indicators. These are what actually, if you were to think of the token as growing in value and starting smaller and growing bigger over time, and a slice out of that cone, is the token, right? And so turn that. What is actually pushing on the edges and making that token more valuable? It's really very simple. It's the number of patients, the number of people that are in the system that we get their records in. So I told you about the 1.1 million, but we also have 70 million patient records being added so that those doctors and nurses can search right now through 70 million patients worth of data. And we have hundreds of millions of more lined up. But that's one of the key performance indicators for us, is the number of patients, the number of providers, the number of organizations, doctors and nurses and hospitals and universities is another key performance indicator. The number of pharmaceutical companies and device manufacturers like Pfizer and Stryker and Medtronic and Lilly. So the number of pharmaceutical companies that adopt our technology, and we had some great conversations with some of the best in the world, those are exciting. The number of protocols. So we have actually identified already 24 separate protocols to be created with Exochain. We're developing 3, and we're planning to develop 3 every quarter for the rest of this year. So you want to know what's a specific stake in the ground, you're going to see our new website coming out with a very rigorous timeline for the development of these protocols, because every protocol creates more utility and function out of the entire thing. And then last but not least is the number of partnerships that we have. So these are a critical component where we can actually utilize the tokens in an exchange for very large networks onboarding onto our system and actually integrating their platforms for collecting money for the insurance companies, for example. The explanation of benefits, and major insurance companies have already expressed a tremendous interest in being able to identify and know that there's no fraud, because they know exactly that money is going to someone who did have care and isn't someone who bought someone else's health record off the dark web. And those are more valuable today than credit card numbers. So this is a big problem, and the reason they're more valuable is because it takes so long for them to catch up with the fraud, and we're going to nip that in the bud too. So those are the primary KPIs, and our whole company is oriented to driving to those KPIs. So we're using tools like Asana and Align Today and Google Docs, as the primary tool.
So people can see and verify.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
So for dates, what dates are you looking at? Where are the goals you're trying to reach in this token sale? All the information people need to know. So they say, you know what, I like what you said so far. I want to go on, log on, jump on this. Is this for U.S. investors? Accredited only is what it looks like. What happens with a lot of these things. So what kind of brief spiel can you give on that?
Yeah. So our pre-sale is kicking off next Monday, the 19th. You can come to exochain.com and then follow us on our on our Telegram, and we're planning to put 200 million tokens into the pre-sale, with another 300 million will follow about 5 weeks after that date in a public sale, and there will be a hard cap at this point, is anticipated at 30 million. So that's going to put the token price at about 6 cents blended, we're very excited about it, and we're looking forward. And we do have a desire to make this very global. As I said, we already have people represented by 132 different countries, but because of we're in the U.S., we are going to follow those rules. So for the certainly for the pre-sale, which will have a 35% discount to the public sale, those will be done through SAFT agreements.
Okay.
The tokens at completion.
Well, one of the things I definitely do like is kind of like that Series B funding. We're going to have a year to see how you all progress before people decide they want to put in another bit of money in that second year when the next sale comes. So if everything is tracking the right way and people, you have gained that following, I'm sure that second one's going to be a lot bigger as well.
Well, that's what we think is going to happen too. Everybody who's joined this team so far have been very blessed. They've come far and wide from organizations that I've worked with in the past, and literally I have not yet had one person who was like the creme de la creme of developer, or creme de la creme of people who are in the sales and marketing side that have yet to say, no, I don't want to come work over here on this project. They've all jumped on board, and you can read through their profiles on our website. I'm just extremely thrilled. And a big piece of what we're doing is helping our combat veterans as well, through our support of not only ACRES, Alliance for Clinical Research Excellence and Safety, but also the Task Force Dagger Foundation, which you can think of as it's like Wounded Warriors, but it's run all by Special Forces operators, former Delta Force operators, and it focuses on restorative and regenerative health to these people. And this is something where most of our investors to date come from that community, and we're very honored to serve them.
Hoorah. Yeah, I saw you had the Green Beret, former Green Beret working for you all. I believe he's one of your executives as well. So definitely had a chance to take a peek at that. That's pretty amazing as well. All right. Well, hey, before we wrap, is there any last thing you want to leave with people? Again, token sales coming up next week on the 19th, folks. You've heard this ambitious project. If it's done right, then hey, this definitely sounds like a good business to get involved with. Bob, do you have any last words?
Well, if you don't think we're doing it right, we'd like to hear from you even more. There's no part of this that we take, some pride of authorship in. This is a collaborative effort in order to accelerate drug and device discovery for mankind. And, do it for yourself, do it for your children, though.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bob, we definitely have to have you back on. We're looking at the chat. We didn't, of course, we keep this around 30, 35 minutes, but we have a ton of questions coming in. So again, they can follow you on your Telegram channel as well. We're at?
Yes, Exochain.
Exochain, folks. So they're in there as well. You can go in there, ask them a few questions. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer. And of course, we all know crypto is community and building that ecosystem. So we're sure we'll hear more from you all once you do that as well. Hey, Bob, thanks for coming on the show. We definitely appreciate you sharing your vision with Exochain. And we definitely look forward to seeing how you guys grow and develop over time.
Yeah, let's make all this stuff stronger. Thank you.
No problem.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Very good.
Have a good one.